We are live. Seems we had some technical problems, but we are here. We made it. I'm glad you're all here. If you can see me, hear me, if someone's here, let me know. And we will get started in a minute. And today is a great day to talk about leadership. And we will talk about leadership in many different forms, and especially about increase. That's a very important part that I want to talk about, because most people don't talk about it. Is how to really create increase in life, in leadership, in business. And every aspect of life, in life, including leadership and including business, is governed by natural laws of the universe. And this is not a woo-woo. Dr. Warren von Braun, who is considered the father of the space program early on, he said he was talking to the president, and the president asked him, what would it take for us to really take a man, build a rocket, and put him on the moon and bring him back to safely to Earth? And you know what he said? He said, the will to do it. He thought about it and he said, the will to do it. And that's what I really want to talk about today a little bit. Is this the problem we have in business and in any organization? Is not that we can we do great things or not. It's actually, are we willing to do it? Because there's always great ideas. Yesterday I just heard a short podcast where gentleman was talking about Jeff Bezos and the Amazon culture. And in Amazon, they had a culture that they created such a organization that saying no is very difficult in an organization. And from that, they created the Amazon services, which right now generate 75% of their yearly revenue. And what actually means is you have to say yes to almost anything. If you do want to say no, you have to write a 2-page essay saying why this is a bad idea. So it's really encouraging people to say yes and almost embarrassing you if you want to say no, right? So that's that. But what we want to really go into is the execution part, because we always have a ton of great ideas, right? So problems, if you talk about problems to solve, because these are the great ideas that come to us, because problem in itself is caused and it is a culmination of individual or collective way of thinking. That's what it really is. And if you go to the root cause of any problem, is the individual or collective way of thinking. Most of the times it's collective, especially when we talk about organization, it's the collective way of thinking. Now, what's the solution? Solution is obviously, let's change the way we think in this organization. And we definitely can do that. And the way we do that is obviously working with individuals, explaining, and also obviously education is a big part of it. And second big part that I wanted to discuss today is the impression of increase. Now I paused because I believe, seeing many leaders in corporation, in startups, in many different fields, I don't believe most leaders know what impression of increase is. Most leaders think they're supportive, get me right, but their teams oftentimes feel controlled, being controlled, right? So every person in your company wants to always grow. They want to have more autonomy. They want to have more recognition. They want to grow more. And it's a natural behavior of a human being to grow, right? And if you hear, by the way, let me know in the chat. I should be able to see your comments here as well. And so it's a natural essence of human beings. We want to grow more, we want to do more, we want to be more, we want to experience more, right? As natural beings, we want to do. A baby wants to learn to walk. That's a natural thing. We don't have to teach baby how to walk. It naturally wants to walk. It wants to grow. It wants to learn, right? And that's not in an organization. The more autonomy, the more recognition, more growth. That's not entitlement. That is a nature of human being. And a lot of times we come too far away from that, and we want them to do what we want to do, right? And so we need to really change that if we really want our organization to grow. As a leader, are you really a leader who surpasses that, that place where we do just entitlement? Or are you the person who really channels that part of increase? Because everyone desires it. Everyone wants to be seen. Doesn't mean everyone wants to be on a pedestal, not that, but everyone wants to be seen. And people in general realize that by associating with you, when you are giving them increase, they are naturally increasing. They feel it, maybe not consciously per se, but most people will feel good around you. They will want to associate with you. They will want to be around you. They want to follow you. That's what a leader wants, right? They want to follow a person who can bring increase into their life. And you know, giving needs to become a habit. And so start to really look first consciously, because we're creating a new habit. Start looking consciously in your organization, in your environment, in your family, what others do well. And let them know that you discovered it. Let them know that you noticed it, and make this a habit. Start creating a habit. And realize this. Earl Nightingale said this: creating a habit is not easy. It's not. It's not easy at all. But when you create a habit, and once it's formed, it can last for a lifetime. Unless and until you choose to change it again. Maybe one day you realize, maybe I'm ready to level up again and create a new one, or level it up to a different level, right? And so creating a habit is not so easy, but it can be very, very rewarding, right? And so giving in itself, it needs to be spontaneous. If you need to really think about it, you're really trading in that. It's really a transaction for you, right? And there's a law, universal law. The law, Emerson called it the law of laws. And this is the law of cause and effect. Action and reaction are equal, and they're also opposite. And what this really means is that energy always returns to its source of origination. And I want you to really think right now, because most people, most leaders don't think. And you might think, gosh, this guy's a bit arrogant. I'm not. But most leaders don't think. And I say that because otherwise they would not do what they're doing. They would not lead the way they're leading their people if they would really think. And so why would you put negative energy out if you know it will come back to you? Why the heck would you do that? You know this law of cause and effect. You put Good energy out, good comes back to you, not necessarily from the same source. It comes from the universal source, but it comes back to you. If you put bad energy out towards your colleagues, your competitors, your business partners, it comes back to you. Not necessarily the same source, but it always comes back to you. Right? And so why would you, if you really think, why would you put bad energy out if you know that consciously? Right? No person who's aware of that would do that. However, there's a huge but behind this, right? I usually say leave the buts behind you, but here is a good point that we want to highlight. What you put out always returns. This is law. This is not my opinion. But if you won't come to the place that you put a good out, you naturally you're putting out a negative energy out, right? Because these are either negative or positive. They're both polarities. This is a law of polarity also, which we won't go into today, but it won't come back from the same source, right? And most executives aren't strategic. They're reactive with their authority, right? And so you're getting exactly what your level of leadership deserves. And when you get back to you sometimes things that you don't necessarily want, what happens to that is that your paradigm is in control. Your paradigm is a multitude of habits. Everyone has them, multitude of them, but it's a multitude of habits stored in the subconscious section of your mind that controls your automatic behavior. And you're triggered. You react to people, to conditions, to circumstances. And that's where your paradigm is in control. Now, the way to change that is through developing that new habit, impression of increase. And if you do it long enough and consistently enough, you will form a new habit that, as I said, will serve you for the next of your life, next life too maybe, but for the rest of your lifetime. What you put out always returns, right? And external conditions don't have to control your internal state. Listen to this. External conditions, circumstances, people are not or should not be control of your internal state. But a lot of times they are, because of the way we've grown up. We've seen other people react, and we see other people just lash at other people because they were not aware. And awareness does not equal emotional reaction. Awareness means that you are aware that this is a response, and you have a split second in every single moment to decide if you react or if you respond. You can choose that response. And if you're not controlling that thinking, your environment always does. If you're not in control, someone else is. And so you have a responsibility. You either take it or not, but as a leader, I would suggest it's a high time to take a responsibility to fully be aware of how you respond in each situation. Because other than that, you're giving control to the other person, to the situation, to the circumstance. And if your mood changes with circumstances, your leadership honesty is unstable. And if you're not running a company, then you are conditioning a system. You're conditioning a system, right? And the thing is, You are the point origin. I'm talking about the executives right now. You are the point origin of the culture around you, either at home or at the workplace. But you are the change, right? Because leadership always filters down from the top. And so you are the origin of culture, of standards, and of energy. Energy. Three key pillars here: culture, standards, and energy. And your organization, or even your family, mirrors your dominant thinking patterns. And again, if you don't take full responsibility for it, you're acting as a victim. You're acting as a victim, right? Not as a leader, but as a victim. And unfortunately, we see that a lot in organizations these days, but a victim mentality does not produce the results that you want, but the really fully taking responsibility. And so any change that you desire, we're talking about filtering down from the top. That means you need to take control of what's going on internally first. Internally, right? And because the change is always internal. External world always follows the change. If every leader in your company led exactly like you, ask yourself, would you scale or would you stall? It's an honest question to ask, because leadership always filters down from the top. And growth, you need to grow as a leader in value. Which means when you grow in value as a leader, that's where you start to receive the increase that you're seeking. And there's a law that states that, a law of compensation, I believe I mentioned it last week. A law of compensation states that the amount of money you earn is in direct ratio to demand for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. And the only point that we need to focus here is your ability to do it. So you need to get really, really good at your ability to lead, your ability to lead your specific field. We actually have a process, 3 months process for our clients called the Lead the Field, where you really become the leader in your field. But growing in value as leaders, you receive the increase. I don't know your business individually. I don't need to. But every organization that is growing needs great leaders. If they're growing, they need great leaders. They need great people. And company is either growing or dying. There's no standing still. Energy is always for expansion and fuller expression. Spirit is always for expansion and fuller expression. And during depression, there was a gentleman who nobody could get work, and there was a gentleman who chose the company he really wanted to work with. And then he researched everything he could about that company, about the industry. He interviewed and talked to people in the same industry. And after he was done with his research, he called the company and said, I know several ways in which your business can be really greatly increased. And I'd like to talk to you about them. And he always got interviewed with the executives, and he always got the job he wanted. You see, companies are always looking for people who can help them increase their value. So what is your value? And what can you want to ask yourself, what can I do to increase my service? Because your value that you receive is in direct ratio in your ability to do it, like we said, and it's your value, right? So the more value you can provide, the more you receive. But you got to be open to receive, because most people receive through a keyhole. Through a keyhole. So open your doors and windows and embrace yourself to receive. But you got to ask yourself, what is my value? What am I worth? What am I really worth to myself, to my family, to my company, to the market? Like if we're talking about right now the public market, you as an executive, not just your business, not just for your employees, what are you worth as a person to the market? You every single day you're selling services. You, in regardless of what your role you're in, you are selling yourself to your clients, to your colleagues, to your family. You are selling yourself, and you have a certain value that right now is set on a certain level. If you want to ask yourself, am I valuable to the people and to the people I serve? And every day I like to ask myself, how can I increase my value? That's why we're doing these stand-up leadership sessions here, because I want to increase the value that I put out. So what is your value on the market? What are you worth right now? Would others invest in me? That's a good one. That's a really good one. Would others invest in me because I am valuable to them? If not, that's okay. Do an honest reflection and ask yourself, how can I today increase the value that I'm providing to the people I serve? And if you can do that, if you can increase that every day for 1%, end of the year, you have 365%. And tomorrow is a brand new day to start again. Regardless of what happened today, and even right now, is a brand new opportunity to start again. Each day is, I like to look at days as consisting of segments of days. You wake up, there's a segment. You maybe do your bath routine, there's a segment. You go to your work, whatever form that is, that's a new segment. Each segment is part of the day. Even if you're in the middle of the segment, you and only you have the opportunity to set a new intention. That's intentional leadership. Taking intention of how you choose to show up. Not what other people do, not what other people say to you, how they react, how they respond. None of that. How do you choose to show up from now on? You can change that. Thank you for being here. This was Stand Up Leadership on Wednesday, May 6, 2026. I appreciate you being here. And tomorrow is a great new day to stand up for your leadership. Let's stand up together. See you next week.